Hello, my name is Emma O'Driscoll and welcome to the club's brand new series, The Anchor Room, a new online Q&A series for you, the fans, providing you with the opportunity to have your questions answered by club leaders, coaches and players. And since we're halfway through the season, we're joined by Joe Brierty, Executive General Manager of Football, to answer your questions about our footy program. And from a player's perspective, AFL Captain Alex Pearce. Thanks so much for joining us, guys. We're going to crack into some questions now, boys. Start with me and then we'll go into our members' questions. So AP, it's halfway through the season. As captain, what have you assessed and noticed and what has most impressed you this year so far?
Thanks, Drees. It's certainly been a bit of a roller coaster to start the season. I think if you asked me a month ago, like a lot of Freo people, we were disappointed with where we stood, and some of the we'd played some good footy at that point, but we've had some inconsistent and some poor performances. But I really think the last month we've been able to be consistent in the way we've played and prepared, and had some good wins against some good opposition. Been able to perform away from home, which has been really pleasing. So I think the most impressive thing I think is just our ability to maintain the faith a little bit. We haven't changed a lot. We've focused on us, and now I think the group stands with really good confidence in the footy that we can play. And it's really nice to be at this midway point of the season. I feel like we're exactly where we need to be. We've got some guys in good form, and we're ready to take on the second half and continue this good form.
Absolutely, and that has obviously shown in the last 3 weeks, but I think testament to the boys and the character of this football club, the resilience shown has been phenomenal. And I guess to you, JB, just back on mindset, how have the players returned from the mid-season break, and what is the mindset heading into this away game at Optus Stadium against North Melbourne?
Yeah, thanks, Em. Look, it's obviously a great opportunity to reset and recharge from a playing group and also a staff perspective. We've had a fair bit of travel in the first half of the year and time away from family. It's important to be able to obviously reconnect with our family and friends over that period and recharge and really on the back of that come back in and look to prioritise and focus on us and where we're at and what we want to look to improve and grow from a football perspective holistically at this halfway point. And then as we look to our next opposition in North, it's a bit of a cliche, but look, we don't go away from what we've really looked to prioritise probably in the last 3 to 4 week period in our preparation and our consistency. We feel like that's held us in really good stead, and we've got some clear focuses that we want to focus on and prepare for the opposition's best. And we know on any given day, North Melbourne are a really good football team. And probably the one from this game, it is a little bit different for our club, and Simon Garlick and obviously Cam Tui have done a mountain of work to take this opportunity for us to have another home game in WA. But for us, it's just another game of footy that we need to make sure we prepare really well for.
Definitely, and the Purple Army will be there to obviously support us in that one. So, speaking of the Purple Army, we are going to go into some of our members' questions now. Our first question is going to be from Murray Dunstan. JB, the biggest concern this year has been Freo's inconsistency. Now that Freo have strung a few wins together, what changes have been made that should lead to more consistent and successful results in the second half of the season?
Yeah, look, I think Alex alluded to it earlier. Like, our ability to focus on what makes us a really good team and prioritise that first and foremost. And we're a role-based team that can focus on everyone's contribution around the ground at any one time. But ultimately, in how we perform on game day comes down to our prep during the week. We've made it a really clear priority from our leadership group all the way through key leaders within the football program, and Justin's obviously played a big role in that, making sure that at any given moment we're not getting ahead of ourselves in prioritising what we need to do on each day, in setting ourselves up to perform on the weekend. And with that comes really high accountability and ownership of the behaviours that we want to prioritise across our staff and our playing group. So it's been great to see the investment and buy into that, but again, we're at a halfway point in the season. We've obviously take that opportunity to reset, but we look to the second half of the year and making sure that we continue to have strong accountability and prioritise those behaviours that have probably set us up to this point in time to be able to launch into the next game.
Definitely, and staying in the moment links into this next question for you, Alex, from Damien Paul. How did the players handle trade and contract speculation? Is it all pretty clear inside the club, and does the outside noise just create another distraction for you?
That's a good question. I think how we've handled it is you can't avoid the talk, like it's always there, and to be honest, it's been more making fun of it really, and Jacko's probably the one who we're talking about, and he's been the brunt of a couple of jokes and around who's going to take a pay cut to keep him at the club, and there was a few guys getting volunteered for that role. Shay springs to mind. I think Andy and Caleb both were approached in the gym, but look, you can't. You just have to. We know Dogger is really committed to our club and to our team, and we've seen that with the way he's been playing. So there'll be outside noise. You can't just ignore it because it's there. So look, to be honest, we just have a bit of fun with it. Yeah.
It's the best way to go about it though, right?
I think so.
Stays within the inner sanctum, unless you're obviously talking about it on TV here, where everyone knows what
Yeah.
we've been saying, but a bit of banter always settles things for sure. And back to you, JB, we've got a question from Craig Ashworth here. What are the indicators our selectors use to pick the team? We constantly see underperforming stats from players who maintain a spot in the side.
Yeah, look, first...
It's more of a statement actually, JB, but let's comment on that.
Yeah, look, I won't go into the intricacies of match committee, but I think first and foremost we can delve into too much around statistics. So I talked about it earlier. In a role-based team, the first thing that we value, and I know that Alex is our captain and our leadership group and our playing group is value players that execute their role for the team. And ultimately, on any given day, that might not mean that you're the one in the forward half kicking 4 or 5 goals or having 30 disposals. For us, that looks like what the team needs in that moment. And our coaches, from an integrity perspective, assess our players on that exact thing. So when looking to pick a side going into any given week, there can be a variety of criteria. This year at different times from availability perspective, we've had players playing different roles. It's something that we've wanted to grow is our flexibility of players playing through the midfield and forward line, and that's a positive. We've been able to do that. We've seen the likes of Sikowski and Bolton and Jackson spend time as on-ballers at different times this year. Then it obviously comes into what the opposition is throwing at us, and at different moments there's different players on our list that are needed to play a role for the team. We've seen Johnson and Erasmus tag, we've seen Wagner play those roles, and Banfield going back when the teams needed it. So across a different week we'll look at a number of different factors that come down to what the team requires and how we best set up for the best 22 that take us into the game to win that game of footy. But the biggest thing from my perspective is making sure that our players get really clear feedback week to week from our coaches, and I think our line coaches, our development coaches, and Justin in his role as a senior coach do a great job, and ultimately then it makes it really clear for how our players understand in which we go about that process to make sure that we're set up to have a really strong performance.
And as you've just described, it is a very complex process. So thank goodness the coaches are doing their role and us as players can sit back almost and try and execute ours.
With stats-based years, I might not get a game, so we can't just rely on
excuse
them.
me, I was actually about to say, my favourite thing about this year is we've seen some backs goals.
Well, actually, yeah, that's true.
So,
I might
Alex,
be playing
you could
forward
be-
if we look
yeah,
at the
you
stats.
could be thrown in
Maybe
the
we
mix
should look at
for
the
forward.
stats.
He has asked Justin a couple of times if he can start forward. I'm not sure that's going to happen. We'll see how it goes.
No, but we do love you as a defender. And we are going to take things back with this next question to your draft day, believe it or not. So Deegan Duckworth has sent in a question, and this is, if you could go back in time and chat to yourself the day you were drafted, what would you tell yourself? I bet it wouldn't be that you've kicked some goals in the 2025 season.
No, I probably expected to kick more goals in my career back then. It's a really good question. It would be nice to be able to go back then and just be innocent Alex that doesn't know what's in store, and I don't think I would tell him too much, to be honest. Probably let him know that the footy career is going to be harder than what you imagine, but it's also going to be much more fun and give you much more fulfilment than what you ever imagined as well, and just enjoy it. I think that's the beauty of one of the beauties of playing football and being drafted early is as your career grows, you grow as a person, you change, and I was a very different person back then as an 18-year-old, and the part of the how great the journey is. It's just that growth that you get to have. So I wouldn't let him know too much. Just enjoy the moments, because there's plenty of good ones. But just be prepared, because there'll be some tough ones as well.
Lovely, wholesome answer there. And so moving on, I guess, to more of the football side of things, we've got a question from Roy Kavanagh about what you consider the most important skill a modern footballer needs to possess.
That's another good question. I think in today's game, you have to be able to adapt. I think you've seen with our team, as Joe alluded to, the ability to play different roles, and the ability that when you're a kid playing junior footy or you're playing senior footy at an early age, to step up to state league footy in the waffle and then to AFL level, you have to be able to adapt to what that requires, and to what AFL training requires. And I think the people that are really successful are sort of hungry to learn and hungry to improve. So I think that ability, desire to get better, and just ability to adapt. I think if you've got that, you can manoeuvre your way through your career, because it's going to take, you can't just stay on the same plane the whole way. You're going to have to change the way you do things and adjust to what the game requires. So I think that's it.
I think it's really important that you didn't just mention a physical skill either. They always say character is king, and I guess that's something that we look for when we're picking the team, but also when we're drafting people as well. So I think it's important for everyone to know that your character will get you through.
Absolutely. You need
keep learning how to kick.
You need a bit of skill, but you need to, you're a great kick, Drews, please. 50 metres on the run, no worries. Kick it further than me.
No way. And then throwing to you, JB, we have a question from Joe Basford. What is the team's practices and processes when you draft someone from interstate to ensure that they feel at home, knowing that this will be the first time that they've moved out of home and lived away? And how do you help them with that homesickness as well?
Yeah, look, it's a really important question from a club perspective, making sure we really prioritise it. We have a privilege that we get to draft young men and women to our club over in WA, and we have probably over 50% of our squad is from interstate. So we want to make sure that transition is as easy as possible, not only for the player but for their family. It's a big thing as a 17, 18-year-old man or woman coming over to WA, a new environment. Most people haven't travelled over here before that time. Not sure if you came to WA before you were drafted, mate, but in that, from our perspective, it needs to feel like home. We talk about the Freo family, and we make that a real priority. So in the first instance, what we look to do is put our players with senior players. I know, what did you have when you first came over to WA? Who did you live with?
No, I got just the crumbs. I got tabs. My first time.
Well, we won't talk about that. But look, in more recent times, I know Alex has taken players. Andy Brayshaw had Murphy Reid. Caleb Sarong looked after Charlie Nichols in the most recent draft. And the player looks to spend a month with them and get an understanding of what our program looks like, and moving around Perth, and I guess connect with a senior player within our program. And then from there, we look to connect them with a host family. So in between being with an older senior player, we normally get their family over to Perth for a few days and show them what the club's about and understanding that, but also introduce them to a potential host family or host parents. And then they'll transition into that environment, again, so it feels like home, and they're well looked after because they're pretty long days. I think most of our draftees tend to go home and sleep after every training session. So it's really train, eat for the first few months and sleep. And then from a club point of view, it's holistic. We've got a lot of resources within our football department. Our coaches act as mentors. That's their key role. Our player development staff make sure that the players off field is really sorted, whether it's education or something they may be really passionate about. And then it's giving them the tools to be a professional athlete, connect with obviously our leadership and trademark framework and the performance psychology that's required in elite sport. So there's so many demands, but in that first 12 months from a club point of view, it's making sure that our family feels like their family. They're well supported, and they've got an environment where they can develop their footy as quickly as they possibly can.
So mentorship is what I'm getting from that, as well as obviously a supportive environment and using our resources here at the club. But surely a visit to Cottesloe Beach also does the trick?
Yeah, as long as it's not the Cottesloe Hotel. I'm happy with Cottesloe Beach.
Coogie's around the corner as well.
Yeah, there's some great spots in WA. And look, that's the thing that's probably a selling point from our club perspective. We want to be a destination club, and whether that's players arriving in the draft that they stay here for their entire career, like Alex, or whether that's a potential player that we want to bring in from a club when they're halfway through their career. We want to make sure they can come to WA and set up their roots here and be a part of what we're building. And we think that that's something we're doing pretty well at the moment, with a number of players from an AFL perspective that are signed on for long-term commitments. And we think we're on the right path with this group taking us forward. Absolutely.
And someone like Alex is a prime example of that. So our last question, going straight to you, AP, on a more light-hearted note, we have got Ella Christensen and Heather Hamblin that have sent in a question. Alex Pearce, what is your go-to pre-game meal, and what is your hair care routine?
Oh,
it's not mine.
That's secret. No, we don't care about yours, Joe. All right, pre-game meal. Oh, I'm not too fussed, to be honest. I always cook a pasta. It's been like a seafood or black prawn sort of linguine recently, so that's it. Nothing fancy. There is nothing fancy, you know. A bit of white wine, a bit of garlic, that kind of
Gorgeous
stuff. And the hair care routine. Look, I don't know. I've got some pretty expensive shampoo and conditioner that the hairdresser gave me.
Give them a plug. So, you might get the sponsorship here.
I can't remember the name of it. No, I don't get it for free. And look, I think I've just lucky to have long, thick hair, Driz. Like, I don't take very good care of it, yeah.
And that's a wrap on this episode of The Anchor Room. Huge thanks to Joe and Alex for joining us, and to you, the Freo family, for sending in your questions. Make sure to keep an eye out and prepare your questions for our next Anchor Room episode coming later this year. And don't forget, if you haven't already, members, grab your tickets for Saturday night's away game at Optus against North Melbourne. Tickets start from just $35 from Ticketmaster. Thanks again, Purple Army. See you next time.